Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another Monday this and that video where I give you various different updates, answer some questions, whatever I feel like talking about. It's kind of a potpourri style video. That's why it's called this and that. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with that rhododendron oil that I made right at about a year ago. I'm trying to be careful not to shake it because I want to show you what the color of it looks like. I was sure it was going to turn deep red. It's rhododendron flowers, nice bright red rhododendron flowers. I'll put some other pictures and clips here of me making this last year. And I was sure it was going to take on that color. It looked right away like it was going to, but it didn't. However, I'm going to still assume that it's been well infused, and I will probably be using this in some of my own skincare skin cream, because rhododendron flowers, we've been taught to be totally afraid of them, but they do have medicinal benefits. I don't think I did a specific video on it yet, but I plan to, and then forgot to get around to it. But at any rate, I figure what I'll do is just add this to whatever infusion I'm going to make next in relation to anything skin related. But I want to show you now what it looks like when I shake it up, because I want you to see why I thought it was going to be. Look at that. When you shake it up, it's like, wow, it looks like the oil is that color. But unfortunately, it is not. But anyway, it's funny to me, though, a lot of these herbs and other things that we've been told are so toxic and can kill us do actually have benefit. And even in just in the past 5-10 years, we've seen so many other things that people have been using for centuries or longer to help cure many different things have really been demonized, which is why there are certain things we're no longer allowed to talk about on YouTube, and why I had to start my Rumble channel, and why I even have a playlist over on Rumble that is just on, that has just the videos I've either had to remove from YouTube or shot new ones and then put them in that playlist. And the playlist is titled Videos Banned on YouTube, or something like that. Now I wanted to show this. This is just kind of a side topic. This is one of the grapefruit peels, the first one I started. Look at the color of this. It started out kind of a peachy color, but as it's going along, and it is vinegar, it's not quite done yet, but it's definitely vinegar, and it definitely tastes like grapefruit peel and does also have that strong bitter flavor to it. But I think it's interesting how red this one is turning. And I can see the second one I started is starting to darken as well. I'm sure people who try this will ask me about this. I've seen similar things happen when I do orange peel. Some of them will darken like this. I don't know why it gets that dark. I actually think this is a real pretty color. It may not show up as well in the camera, but it's kind of a burgundy, maybe closer to maroon, a little bit, brownish red. Even though I don't know exactly what causes that, I'm sure it's some kind of reaction of the vinegar itself to something in the peel that's going to cause the color to turn. You'll see something similar, but in a different color when you ferment garlic. I used to have a picture of some fermented garlic I did years ago, long before I started my channel, and a lot of it had turned blue or teal or turquoise. And people who might ferment garlic see that happen will probably freak out, but it's basically just a chemical reaction of the garlic. It's totally natural, it's totally safe to the fermenting process, and it causes it to turn that color, and it's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. And my guess is the same is what has happened here, just a different color. Then also, this is my first pint of lemon balm I'm putting up this year. I'm not putting up a lot of lemon balm dried because I don't use a lot of it dried, but I do like to have some put up, both for teas and also for adding to the chicken feed, along with a bunch of other herbs like nettle, oregano, garlic, red pepper, because it's just really, really good for the chickens. So I do have a bunch in the dehydrator right now, as you might have seen on last week, that big bunch I put in the dehydrator. Well, that's today that I'm shooting this video, because I always shoot these this and that videos on the Wednesday before they publish. But anyway, if you're interested in the benefits of lemon balm, I'll go ahead and link to the video I did a few years ago in the description box down below. My personal favorite way to use it, though, is in a tea form, fresh, or as an infused, a cold infusion in the middle of summer, mixed with orange mint. Oh my goodness, and I grow both of them, and that is just a nice citrusy, very summery feel kind of tea, and I always prefer it fresh when it comes to the lemon balm, but it can still make a good tea from a dried form. And so, yeah, so I'm going ahead and putting up more than I initially planned, just in case, especially since I'm going to be taking some and giving it to the chickens anyway. Now, let's talk a little bit about the chickens, because you might have seen last week, it was a video I'd actually shot back in March, why I still had some eggs in the incubator, and my first batch for this year had hatched out. And so I wanted to give you an update on that, because obviously those have hatched out. That last 6 that I put in there, 2 of them ended up not being fertilized, so I only got 4. But so far it appears out of the 4, I've got 2 males and 2 females. It's still not set in stone yet, but I'm learning to kind of recognize as the chicks mature the different attributes in both demeanor and the way they look. Not just the growth of the comb and the wattles tends to be faster than in the females with the males, but also just there's something different about the way they look, their head, their neck. It just, I don't even know how to describe it. I can just look at it and see something different. The hens, the females always seem to have a smoother look to them than the males. So out of the first batch, I know I was thinking that the one that was nearly white, very, very pale, was probably a male because it had feathers on its legs, but I wasn't certain if that could possibly be a sign, and that the black one was probably a female because it was kind of small and delicate and had no feathers on its legs. Well, it looks like it was the other way around. The white one, I mean, and she's very pretty. Well, I'm calling her she, but I'm pretty certain that one's a female now because of the way it looks, the whole shape of the head, the smoothness of the feathers, and the way she's developing all the way around, and her behavior. And the black one is taking on the behavior more of a male, and its comb and wattles are growing faster than the others out of that batch. So that's the first batch. The second batch, best I can tell, I have 2 females and 2 males. They're 3 weeks apart, but I do have them all mixed together. And this was an interesting thing because I wasn't sure how well it was going to go to take chicks that were already 5 weeks old and mix them with ones that were 2 weeks old. Because the longest I keep them in the house, in the little box we have set up for them, is about 2 weeks. And about by that point, they're a little too big and they need more room to spread out. So then we put them in that mini coop that sits inside the adult coop, so that they can be out there with them but still kind of be a little more safe. And I wasn't ready to take the ones that were 5 weeks old and intermingle them with the adults yet. They were, in my opinion, still too small. So I just tried it, and I put them, the younger ones, out with the older ones when they were in their outside enclosure that I have for them, and just watched them, stood there and watched them, and no issues whatsoever. They cuddled right up, and now they've been together for, what is it, about 3 weeks now, and so they're doing really well. And so here's a couple of video clips I took this morning of them in the outdoor enclosure that we created for them. And then you see in the back, I made like a little shelter with a folding plastic table, 6-foot table, and then a tarp to allow more protection for both sun and from rain, since we get a lot of rain. And it also provided me a place to put some more pots for growing lettuces and such. Now, you only see something in the middle pot because that's the cilantro that the little birds left alone. But all my lettuce seed, they clearly came in and ate that. So I'm starting lettuce again somewhere else, and then I'll be transplanting into that. But those pots serve as 2 purposes. They hold the tarp in place, as well as giving me something to plant in, and then the little grapevine cuttings are all in there to make a fence to keep the chicks, when they get big enough, from hopping up on and trying to get into those pots. And so anyway, that's working out really well. They kind of got their own little jungle gym in there. And then the greenery you'll see on the far side is my big raspberry patch. Those raspberries also help provide more shade on the hot days. So it's working out really well. If it wasn't for the younger chicks, I would probably already start incorporating the older ones in with the adult chickens, but I want to keep them all together. I tried it one night, didn't go well. They all missed each other. And I left a little door on that smaller coop open, and all the older chicks went from the roost when I went back out to check on them into the small coop with the younger ones who had been in there crying because they missed their siblings. It was pretty cute. So eventually, maybe another week, I'll start letting them fully incorporate with the rest of the chickens. But so far, it's going really well. And I was really pleased to see how well the 5-week and 2-week-old chicks did just mesh together. They were still young enough that it worked out well. So now that I know that, I won't be afraid to try it again. Oh, and then another question I got in regards to chicks, because of that video, was someone asked me if I've ever ground up oyster shells to add to the chickens' feed. And no, I haven't. First of all, we don't eat oysters. But also, I know you can even buy ground oyster shells to add to your chicken feed. I don't do that. It's a waste of money. And the reason people do that is to add more calcium and other minerals that are in such shells to the feed that will help strengthen the shells of the chickens. There's no need to do that. You've already got eggs coming in with shells that have the calcium, magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus all mixed in there. And so, and that's important that they're combined together. And so I simply crush those up and add them to the feed myself. It's free. It doesn't cost me anything. I don't have to go out and buy something to add to the feed to get more of those minerals in there. So that's what I do. I don't always think to mention that, but that is one of the things I do. And yeah, it's working out really good for me that way. And so if you're new to keeping chickens or considering that, that's all you have to do. You don't have to buy anything expensive to add to their feed when it comes to that. Just use their own shells and feed them back to them. Just like I do with the chicks as they're growing. Every day I scramble up an egg and give them an egg until they're old enough to start getting out of that smaller area so they have more area to forage for bugs and such to get that kind of protein. So for now, I scramble up a single egg and throw it out there and let them fight over it. And they do kind of get spoiled. But that's why, because all the adult chickens have far more area to free range and dig for bugs. And then one more thing I wanted to talk about was the dehydrated eggs. So last week's This and That, I was talking about the dehydrated eggs and putting them up. And, you know, common questions I'll tend to get is, how long will they last? Well, from my experience, I know for certain they last at least 4 years. My assumption, based on my experience putting up other things, is that as long as your jars stay sealed, and when you put the eggs, you dehydrate the eggs and you put them in the jar, you want to make sure they're at least down to room temperature and make sure they're fully dry too. And then powder them up, put them in there and vacuum seal them as long as they're room temperature and fully dry. And then the jars hold their seals, they should last indefinitely. That's my personal opinion. And based on my experience, not just with putting up the eggs, but putting up other things in that form. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that the reason I really, really like putting up dehydrated eggs and will always prefer it far more than doing the lime water or water glass method, they're virtually the same, they just use different chemicals, is that your water glass eggs are only going to be, well, I don't know if they necessarily spoil, or your lime water, but really it's best to use them up within a year because they'll get progressively more watery. Well, that same thing happens with eggs that you do not wash and you keep in a cold storage. You keep them unwashed, but in cold storage, they will last for months like that, but they will get progressively more watery as they age. However, I don't have to worry about that with dehydrated eggs because I know they're going to last at least 4 years and most likely indefinitely. And then the other big thing, main reason why I like dehydrated eggs over putting them up the other way is because they're going to take up a fraction of the space of water glass lime water eggs. So you consider I can put almost 3 dozen eggs in a quart jar when I dehydrate it. Just think the size of the jar is going to take to water glass 3 dozen eggs, or how many jars you're going to need to water glass your eggs. It's going to take up far more space in your storage. So even though I've never tried it, I considered it, but as I started dehydrating eggs and realizing they have so many uses just like that, I have no need for water glassing eggs, and I don't even want to bother with it or the space that it takes up. I know people who've done it and talked to them, not just on YouTube, but locally in person, and they've shared with me the same experiences about how the eggs get progressively more watery over time. So it's just not really worth it to me. I mean, if I'm going to have eggs like that, I might as well just keep them unwashed in a cold storage area and then work through them as fast as I can that way. The nice thing about that is those eggs will be better for fried eggs or something like that, where you want them whole, or for boiling or whatever. You can't do that once they've been scrambled and dehydrated. But I did have somebody who shared with me on last week's video how they've also separated the egg yolks and the egg whites out and dehydrated them separately. They have some where they're all mixed together, and then some where they're just the whites and just the yolks for their various different uses. Now, I cannot say how well that works from like using the white for making a meringue. Haven't tried it, but it would be an interesting thing to try. I might consider that if I happen to remember to try it. So anybody who has experience in that, who's tried dehydrating them separately and using them in their own various ways, like for example, if you make tiramisu from scratch, typically you separate out the yolks and the whites and you beat them each. This is for the lady fingers or the savoiardi, if I remember that's what it's called. You beat them separately and whip them up, and then you fold them together. And that's what makes that nice fluffy sponge cake. So if anyone's tried that with the dehydrated eggs or something like that, I would love to hear your input. So please share with us in comments down below and let us know your experience on that. And that's it for today. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.